So I'm just going to give you, I'm continuing the sort of final sort of session before we have some coffee. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about storytelling and a look ahead to next year. My rather long title is this, which is Reigniting the Forgotten Art. And I put in and science because I know my audience. I know you're sceptical scientists. So I've got a couple of science-based facts in there just to underline the importance of storytelling, but also obviously I'm going to use this opportunity to talk to you about why FuturePrint is still growing despite the rather gloomy world we're kind of inhabited at the moment. Although actually I have to say this is like a ray of sunshine the last couple of days. I've been really inspired to hear some of the amazing stories of innovation, and it reminds me, if we're innovative, it almost puts a defence shield around us, because the people I've spoke to are so energised and passionate about what they're doing that actually the gloomy stuff's sort of in the background. Important, but in the background. So, storytelling. Well, it's as old as fire, frankly. So, humans discovered fire, and what happened was our days suddenly extended beyond the actual days of light, or the light hours, and we were hanging out together and in communal areas, so people started talking and communicating it. And I think it's important to recognise just how old storytelling is. We are wired for stories, but perhaps through education, through life, through the difficulties and challenges and so on, I think we've almost been educated out of storytelling. And I think we should really rediscover it, because I know how powerful and strong it is. There is a gloomy narrative this year. There's no hiding from it, right? It's very volatile. And I think things happen to humans when that noise is around us. And a key thing that happens, I think, is that we tend to get defensive. We tend to try to protect ourselves, take control, reduce, hide away. You hear these things coming out like, people can't go to events anymore because they're too busy. And yes, that busyness is real, but this gloomy narrative tends to kind of restrict progress, basically. And what I'm going to suggest to you is actually what we need to do is redefine our own narrative, take back control, and move forward. Because I think what happens is, if we're passive passengers, we are not protecting ourselves for the future. We are open to the dastardly climate that's out there, and it's negative. We get into that awful sort of space where we're actually almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. We talk ourselves into recession. So why have we forgotten the art of storytelling? Well, I think, science-based audience, we do prioritise facts over narrative, and that's understandable, because you don't want to be a scientist that says the wrong thing, that's incorrect. It doesn't feel good. Therefore, in our industry, we prefer technical things and technology things to communications. Consequently, there is an underinvestment in marketing in this industry. We see it as a nice to have, but not a strategic imperative. I also think we're educated out of storytelling, because up to about the age of 9, we're told to play, use our creativity, be inventive. And then we go into education, and it's all about learning facts. Parrot fashion. Facts that, frankly, often we don't ever need in adult life. Creativity starts to get limited and shrinks. A really important fact, and it's interesting because Dario talked about birth rate shrinking, is there's some research that Time magazine have highlighted that said actually storytellers in tribes are more popular, more attractive. And what happens when you're more popular and more attractive? You get laid more frequently, and therefore you have larger families. It's a key to evolution, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to get better at storytelling. Now, of course, we've all seen this. We know this really, really well. But I think also, what I'm listening to, we're all going through these journeys, aren't we? And different industries have within the inkjet that we serve, inkjet world we serve. But actually, storytelling does help us jump that chasm. I was talking to Chris earlier, and we were talking about how sales have changed and so on. Regardless of how good the product is, and he made this point, it's an interesting one, he said you can outsell a product that isn't as good if you have the right sales approach. And I think that's an important thing to realise and understand as well, is that the product doesn't sell itself. We tend to think it does. A product's so good that it just sells itself. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Humans really are hardwired. This is a bit of my science bit, and this is factual. So obviously we have an amygdala, which is the older part of the brain, which governs our feelings and emotions and so on. But when we listen to a story well told, hormones are emitted. Now, Fraser's opening was really, really good, obviously. But what happened was he grabbed our attention. So cortisol was flowing through our brain. So we're like, all right, really important when you're telling a story that you actually keep people's attention, isn't it? We've all sat through talks where we're looking out the window and counting down the minutes for the person to end, because they're not telling a narrative. They're conveying facts and credibility. The other thing that's really important, it's really handy as well when we're selling, is feeling empathy, and oxytocin goes through our body. So if you can relate to somebody, a person, an individual, not a product, products are not something you relate to really in the same way. Oxytocin is emitted into the brain, and you start thinking, and that thing called trust, the feeling of trust or the feeling of relatability is breaking the ice. The person wants to talk to you after your talk or after your article or podcast. Again, really powerful. Biology, science, fact. This is a brilliant book to read, which analyses, a guy called Carmine Gallo. He analysed the top storytellers over history and so on, and analysed how much of their talks they devoted to certain parts. So, and he discovered, surprisingly, 65% focused on narrative, so emotional stuff. Not facts, just narrative. A couple of people that I've listened to have been really good. They said, I'm going to take you on a journey. And so you're immediately, that's a story. We're about to embark on a story. It's got your attention. You're triggering emotion through narrative and relatability. Yet, in our science-based, fact-based world, we focus 25 to 35% on facts, figures, and statistics. It's not that they're not important. And it's not that your doctorate and what university you went to and what job experience you've got. I sat through talks where half of it's about how wonderful this individual is. That isn't going to get you laid, frankly. So really important. So get that book, read it. It's really interesting. It's really useful. And it is that 65. You need all of this, right? But 65% pathos. The thing is, it's really powerful. As humans, we look for stories. Don't forget, from the patterns in stories, from the time of fire, we started, these things have happened over the years, and we've adapted and evolved with it. Humans look for patterns to relate to, these hero's journey patterns that Hollywood's so successful, but it's using the hero's journey system, and a lot of the characters are the same, even the narrative's the same, the environment's different. So it's not actually rocket science. The other thing we should do with our stories is enmesh it with purpose. And Simon Sinek's principle is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that's why Apple obviously is so successful, even though have they got the best computers? That's debatable, isn't it? They've got the most desirable ones, but not necessarily the best ones. But the point being, purpose, enmeshed with stories, motivates. People trust you, that you have transparency, vulnerability, all of these things that are perhaps a little counterintuitive are actually really, really powerful. And he said, the principle of why is so powerful is again, it's the limbic brain, it's the old part of the brain. And we focus on head a lot in the world of science because we have to be correct and factual and everything else. But that part of the brain is the neocortex bit, and that's the bit that developed much more recently, right? The limbic's far more powerful. It's your gut feel, it's you have a feeling, or you don't quite know how to articulate it, but it just feels right. Really powerful. A great example of enmeshing a story and purpose is I think one of the greatest films of all time, Jerry Maguire. I don't know if you remember it in the 90s. Jerry is a sports agent. He's at a away day kind of sales conference, and he has this epiphany moment. And he's like, we've forgotten what this industry is all about. We've forgotten what our business is all about. It's about the people and the families. So he has this amazing epiphany when he's like, actually, I'm going to write all this down, I'm going to put it in a manifesto, and I'm going to share it with all the people in my company. And he called it The Things We Think and Do Not Say. And obviously, this was pre-internet, so you could have done it in another way, but he took it then in the middle of the night to a print shop, and he printed this off and he gave it to everyone. And as he was collecting it, so there's a link to print, obviously, the print shop guy gave him the copies, and he said, that's how you become great, man. Put your balls out there. So he did. And then he went on a massive journey where he went up, down, right, left, centre. But it's a brilliant film it follows that pattern. But it's really relatable and really powerful. So much so it gave me the inspiration to create my own marketing-related manifesto, which is called The Things We Say But Do Not Mean. When we're in our gloomy narrative, I hear, and over the years I've heard the same things over and over again, reasons why people don't invest in marketing, right? I don't have time. We know everyone. That's a good one. The other thing is, my business is so well established, the products sell themselves. I've never seen a product, an inanimate object, sell itself. Marketing is not important. Our competitors are good. I hear that sometimes. They do that because that's how they do it and that's for them, but we can't do that. It's difficult to relate marketing to actual results. So yeah, all of these kind of things, and I was like, it's quite a cathartic process, but all of that is BS. And it's defensive. We don't actually mean it. And part of the reason this happens is, in times of difficulties, this dastardly figure, which usually is lurking in the background, very rarely leaves the office, very rarely even comes to events, although the law of probability means there probably is one CFO in this room. Probably. What happens is, these people become kind of mini rock stars, right? In times of difficulties. So they come to the fore. I think the other thing about storytelling is that it enables you to look into the future and it gives you hope and optimism. These are the anti-heroes of storytelling, the grim CFO. And what happens is they brutally slash budgets to the bone. They destroy optimism. You've built up all these partnerships over the years and they get dissolved because basically it doesn't fit into their horrendous spreadsheet. They restrict long-term growth, and worse of all, and I think this is really, 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 really terrible, is they unreasonably increase the popularity of boring charts and spreadsheets and PowerPoints. And the influence of this is quite significant, and it's understandable. We need to be more prudent. I'm not saying we just carry on as normal, but stopping is insane. Not least because buying is changing, right? So we all go back into our comfort zone as we went pre-COVID, and then we went virtual, and we were like, oh, well, yeah. What's happened is we've gone back to sort of doing what we did before. But actually what's happened is, and going to trade shows and doing that and being so busy, and are we being busy idiots sometimes? We're just doing it because we think we need to do it. But actually in the meanwhile, what's happened is B2B, even the print industry, is becoming more like B2C. And this is due, and as Dario was saying, there's a growth, the Gen Zs and the millennials, they're in decision-making positions now, right? And they don't want to talk to salespeople early in the process because they want to self-serve. They want to go on their journey digitally first. They want to research. They want to understand the benefits and values of a product before they engage the seller, much, much later in the process. The other thing is, when you go to a trade show, and I found this on LinkedIn, I posted it recently, is the people at trade shows are 5% of the market. They're people that are in that buying zone. What are we doing for the 95% that are kind of coming into the funnel later? We're ignoring them completely if we don't have a digital journey. And they want readily available info during that research phase. We don't have it out there. And that isn't just our own website, it's also obviously working with people like FuturePrint. That's where my narrative's coming back, obviously, to me. So the old method of, I remember selling in the 90s for magazines, and you rang people up and they answered the phone. And most of the time they were pleasant. And you go, oh, how are you, how's the family, and all this sort of stuff. And it's a sales-led process. Now it's a buyer-led process, and it's really non-linear. So you have to be present in all these platforms, otherwise you risk becoming invisible and irrelevant. So FuturePrint is designed to help, obviously. We're still growing, and I think actually in downturns and times of difficulty like this, people want information even more. I mean, that's the opportunity. So if you think all your competitors are going into defense mode, then you've got an opportunity to stand out. There's a bigger ocean to play in. They're also looking for people, storytellers are optimistic, aren't they? And paint a vision of the future that's more positive and less doom-laden. So we've continually grown everything, and I think it's in part because we are consistent, we create content that's good and useful and helpful, but we have partners that are also committed to it. But I think it underlines that actually this is helping people through the information gathering phase. We've got a global readership, about 100 different countries. It's weighted towards Europe and the US more so, but still it covers a lot of different regions. The traffic continually is growing. Yeah, we're surprised by how many people find the podcasts and things like that interesting. The TV stuff's really influential. It's really helpful. The numbers continue to grow. We've shifted from virtual to in-person to trying different things out. 45,000 people have viewed our films, and it's continually growing. It's all going in the right trajectory. So the point is, why is that? And if you're not part of that, what are you missing? What opportunities are you missing? So next year we've got some cool things happening. Fraser sort of hinted at this. We're running seminars at IME West in LA. Or Anaheim is near LA. I think about 15 to 20,000 visitors. Advanced manufacturing, really exciting opportunity to connect. That's something we're doing. So we're trying to sort of reach out in person as well as continue on the digital stuff. Really excited about Valencia. We've already got some people booking their delegate spaces. We've not even posted much online. Next week we'll launch the website. It's a really, I think that's really going to be interesting and exciting. We recognise there's a big event happening somewhere in Düsseldorf next year called Drupa. And this year was interesting. When we ran EcoPrint, we pivoted to a virtual model, and we found it's still relevant. People still want that kind of access to that information. So that was cool. So we filmed in London, and then we obviously shared online. So what we want to do is use that model for a preview, because one of the things that I think is problematic with Drupa is, and it reminded me visiting Printing United, it's so big, it's really quite an inefficient model. Unless you've got a load of preordained meetings, it's random. So how are you going to research before you go? Often the interesting stuff is hidden among the noise. So what we're doing is offering a platform there to you to launch stuff or talk about what you're doing at the event at Drupa, and we will run and host that and broadcast that 3 weeks before online. And as I said, the EcoPrint format worked. We didn't realise the actual day of filming, actually people really liked that networking. It was time, it was relaxed, really lovely venue in the centre of London, Century Club, right in the middle of the West End, so everybody loved being there, easy to get to and so on. And yeah, you can become a partner for that if that's something that suits your sort of goals with Drupa. We've done a couple of individual TV campaigns this year, which has been really measurable, impactful. We've worked with 3 or 4 of you, and we're able to continue to do that as a sort of impartial, independent TV producer of features on your product and you. It's digital video storytelling. That's what we do, and that's where we can help. It's some examples of the work we've done at Seiko's Open Week. We had a good visit, great visit actually, at People and Technology, and that was awesome. And then, you know, Fazan launched Nexus One in Label Expo, and a feature at a print business for Catalan. That's just a few examples, and all of them generate views and generate shares and generate interest, and then you use it to refer to. It's like a live brochure that isn't a boring PDF that you send people with the facts. It's a story. Again, we're going to be running EcoPrint, similar format, but we're going to add an awards to it, and the awards is going to be about pitching your products. So if you've got a sustainable product, pitch it, be part of that. Again in October, filmed in September, and building on and aiming to build that up, because we also want the awards to be quite transparent and not one of those awards where you fill in a form, go to an evening event, somebody else wins and you have no idea why you didn't, but it's all okay because we've had a few beers and a nice time. I think you can bring those two models together, have a nice time, and also understand from people that inform judges why certain people have won and others haven't. So yeah, looking to continue with EcoPrint, and of course Cambridge next year here. So here's the calendar. We're going to leave you with the PowerPoint slides, so so you can refer to this, and obviously you can talk to us at the coffee break in a few minutes if there's anything you're specifically interested in. But yeah, so I think what we're trying to say is buck the narrative, right? You know, don't be defined by your CFO. Think about it in these footballing terms. You wouldn't bet all your money on the goalkeeper for your season. You know, goalkeepers are useful. They organise defence. They stop goals going in. But they don't often win Ballon d'Ors, do they? In fact, quick question. Has a goalkeeper ever won a Ballon d'Or?
Yeah, Mary Earth.
Sorry?
Mary Earth got a Ballon d'Or.
I was talking about, oh right, okay. There's always... Okay, but there's only one, yeah? Right. Okay, that's very common. I didn't know that. But, okay. But actually, on the female side there's one, and also on the male. There's a guy in 1965 called Lev. Yeah, so there's always one exception, isn't there? And Guy often is that one exception as well. But yeah, here's the calendar for 2024. Our partner packages here. I really have been inspired about this event the last couple of days. Great content. I've really loved listening to your talks, talking with everyone. Thank you for being part of it, and thank you for listening to me right now. I think it's now time for coffee. Thank you.